Okay, we're recording. Good morning, Everdossi Hancock Mortgage Partners. I am here with Logan Corbett, professional bareback rider, and Tim O'Connell, three-time world champion bareback rider. We're getting together today to just talk about rodeo, talk about positive mindset, and what everybody's doing in these unusual times. So, Logan, why don't you give us a little background on yourself? I know you're kind of in a different situation right now, but give us a little background on yourself and what you're doing in order to make the NFR.
Yeah, absolutely. I am currently, I'm the coach for the rodeo team at New Mexico State University. I've been rodeoing a little bit over the last 3 years, just kind of on a part-time scale with coaching. And so this year we decided after a lot of thought and prayer that we were going to go ahead and take the leap, and I was going to resign from coaching and rodeo full time. So we made that decision really like it last August, September. We announced it over the winter, and then we have, we're in the process. This was our last semester coaching, which of course got cut short with the coronavirus and whatnot. And so now we are getting ready to move this weekend to Marion, Illinois, and so from here on out, I'm going to be rodeoing professionally for the foreseeable future, and which is extremely inconvenient now that there's no rodeos to go to. But yeah, that's kind of our game plan.
So, have they hired a new coach at New Mexico State?
No, they were in the process of the hiring. They were getting ready to post the job when the university shut down. And so because of the fact that they have to form like a hiring committee and all that kind of stuff, I think that they're kind of waiting for the university to open back up. I haven't heard anything specifically about where they're at in the process, but I know that they were trying to be very, very proactive, and they were trying to get something set up as soon as possible. They were hoping to have a new coach in place by the college finals, which is the second week in June.
Awesome. Well, we hope that they get someone good, and we wish them all the best of luck. Being here in New Mexico, we like the NMSU rodeo team and always want to support them. So Tim O'Connell, three-time world champion. You're an absolute stud on bucking horses. So tell us what you're doing in these times when rodeos aren't taking place, and what's going on in your life.
I have a kind of like Logan, I'm a family man. I have a 2-year-old just turned. So I'm just hanging out with family right now, staying in shape the best way I can, just keeping my mind right, my body right, just staying hungry, staying ready so you don't have to get ready again, and I really enjoy spending this quality time with my wife, my son. And like for a lot of people, this is uncharted territory for the United States and the whole world with what this COVID-19 is doing. But for me, like, I was hurt for the first 6 months of last year. I had a shoulder surgery in January, so I sat out 6 months before I got to start rodeoing last year. So this really isn't anything new for me, but I'm just hanging out, really, kind of just staying busy on the day-to-day, trying not to go stir crazy in the house, and starting little projects here and there for my wife. And like I said, trying my best to stay in shape with the little equipment I have at the house. I just kind of got kicked out of my gym last week, so it is what it is. We're just doing our best to stay ready.
Awesome. So let's talk about the mental aspect for the people out there that haven't been on a bucking horse. Let's explain a little bit what it's like to ride a bareback horse. I rode bareback horses in college, but I'm honest about it. I could take a jerkin on a stick horse. I was not a bareback rider, was not my cup of tea, but give everybody a little bit of explanation on what it's like to ride bucking horses and the best bucking horses in the world.
It's the most exhilarating feeling you'll ever feel in your life. It is violent, I will say that, especially if you don't know what you're doing or what you're trying to accomplish on the back of a horse. It can be very violent. I mean, you are connected to their back by the end of your arm. So if you don't know how to do the proper technique, it gets really violent. Like you'll feel this jerk and this whiplash. And basically, I think it's equivalent to probably being in a car wreck, more than likely. I think that's a proper terminology of what people say. So, but when it's done correctly, and like in our world, when you call it getting tapped off on one, when you pick the timing up and you're in perfect sync with these animals, there is not a better feeling in the world. It's the most exhilarating feeling. You can feel the power and the electricity of that animal running through your body. I mean, and you're matching it move for move. I mean, it's the most, I don't think there's not a true word for what the feeling is that you feel when things are going perfect on a great animal, or even just a normal animal, like just your normal average everyday bucking horse. When things are right and you take command of the situation that's happening, and there's 1,000 moving parts happening underneath you, and you're conquering all that. There's not a feeling in the world of dominance that you can feel.
Awesome. Logan, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I think Tim nailed it on the head. I mean, it can be violent. That is for dang sure, especially if, like Tim said, if you're not doing things correctly. But, man, I've done all 3 rough stock events back in high school. And I was pretty poor at all of them for quite a while. But bareback riding was definitely by far my favorite. I stuck with. So, I mean, it's just, yeah, it really is hard to explain when things are good, when things are rolling good, and you're riding good, and man, man, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, but it's not something that, if you're looking for a hobby, like golf would probably be good, or maybe team roping or something like that. But like, man, if you're gonna try to ride bucking horses, it's something that's gonna take a lot of work, and it expects a lot of you.
Yeah, so one of the things that when we put on rodeo schools that I talk to the kids about, that this is a sport that you're either all in or you're all out. There is no middle ground in this. You're either committed and doing what it takes to be the best you can and putting the work in, or just don't, because that's where injuries come from. Now, we talked a little bit, you guys mentioned when everything's going right. Let's talk about the middle aspect of something that every rodeo cowboy sees at some point in their life, and that's a slump. Things just don't seem to be going right. We're not getting by the horses that we generally get by. How do you guys deal with that mentally? I mean, what is the game plan as an athlete, as a professional, to get past those slumps?
Go ahead, Timmy.
I don't really believe in slumps that much, and there's a couple of reasons why. I think for me, it's my job and it's my responsibility to take command over everything that happens, from the time that horse rolls in to the time I grab my rig in from the strip and shoot. Everything that happens in that arena is on me. So there's a few things, like you have to be focused. Like your focus has to be there. Your mind has to be in the game. If it's not there, what you're asking of yourself to accomplish isn't feasible. You're not able to feasibly do the things that you need to do at the highest of levels to take command of them rides, to make, a junk horse a good horse, a good horse a great horse, and a great horse an unbeatable ride. Like, it's my job to do these things. And if I'm not tuned in and I'm not focused, that's on me. So I put that on myself. Secondly, if I have a bad week, I just go buy a brand new rig and a brand new glove, because I know that I've put the work in at the house. I know what I'm doing at the house is preparing me to be the best version of myself when I show up at that rodeo. And if I'm having a string of bad rides over and over and over again, it's probably not me. It's more likely my equipment. And you're only as good as your equipment. Now, if it does come to like it's week 2 and you've changed all your stuff and things are still not going, you need to kind of look at how this last couple of weeks progressed. Is it my horses? Like, am I just outmatched over and over and over again and I'm trying to do too much? Or is it you? Like, is it really you? And if it is, like, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself, like, and you have to be your own worst critic, and you have to have those honest conversations with yourself. And if you decide, like, hey, you're messing up here, you have to go back to the drawing board. Like, you need to go back and do your fundamentals and practice your fundamentals and do the things that are going to kind of click back. And it's only going to take one to stop. You could have 10 bad rides in your mind, and all of a sudden you just knock one out of the park, your slump's over. I just believe that, there's always that deal. You ride yourself in a slump, you can ride yourself out. But if you're confident in yourself and confident in your riding and confident in all the things that you do at the house to make yourself the very best version of yourself in the world, a slump is not a slump. Like, get out of it. Like, I think a slump is kind of the dumbest thing that we've come up with as as an organization that like, oh, he's just in a slump. No, he's just not there. Like, he's not mentally there right now. And like what has happened, you have 1,000 moving parts happening in milliseconds. You know, we have 8 seconds to, you know, to make this beautiful picture for these judges to watch. And you have to be so focused, and you have to be so timed. Your timing has to be so right. And you do some things at the house. And if you're not doing it at the house, that's probably where your slump's coming from. You know, it's all on you at the end of the day. That's what I love about the sport. It's not on anybody else but yourself.
Absolutely. So Logan, do you have an opinion on what the mental aspect of a slump, or how to deal with that?
Yeah, I think that like slumps or like I think that they operate on the same principles as highs. You know, like I've had the opportunity to like, man, I've been in, if you want to say that there's a slump, like, man, I've been in some, I've also, you know, like, man, there's times where you're riding good, and I've been able to travel with Tim and guys like him that are elite in their event and be able to watch how they handle it. It all comes down to, like Tim said, your mindset and your mentality going into those kind of things. And so like one bad ride, or whether you make a mistake, or whether it was the horse or whether it was you, whatever, this one bad ride if you're not willing to let go of it and to move on to the next one, and understand you're going to strap your rig into something again tomorrow. So if you can't let go of that, it will affect you again tomorrow. And then it will affect you the day after that, until you're able to let go. And like Tim said, it's all about the basics, going back to the basics and moving. The best summer that I ever had was when I no longer allowed myself to believe that like my success yesterday was going to lead into today. When I laid my head down on the pillow in the camper at night, like I would enjoy the win that evening. And then that night when I went to bed, it started all over again the next day. You're going to get back out there, and you've got to be focused and compete. It doesn't matter what you accomplish today, whether you won the American and won 100,000, that you go to 2,000 added rodeo the next day and get bucked off. Like so being able to reset and understand that today is not attached to yesterday. Don't let, yesterday ruin tomorrow. And I think just resetting mentally, whether you have to do physical things to reset by like, hey, riding the spur board or visualizing or whatever it is, there might be some physical thing that will help you mentally reset. But it all comes back to just saying, you know what, today is a new day. And whether it's been good or whether it's been bad, I've got to re-perform. I've got to do those things again today in order to see success.
Absolutely. So this is one of the things that I always talk to young kids about. When we put on a rodeo school, we bring in stock contractors. And the thing that cracks me up, it's something that every rodeo cowboy's done, is on an amateur level, is go to the contractor. What's this horse do? What's this bull do? And something that I tell the kids all the time is all you need to know is that it bucks. Get it out of your head on what it's going to do, and just focus on yourself. That preparation, that getting ready, that going back to basics. So let's talk about living the dream that a lot of the young guys out there are looking up to you guys and idolizing. What's it like to be a professional rodeo cowboy? For all the rodeo people out there that don't really understand rodeo, understand these guys don't work on a salary. They're not on a contract. They only make money if they win. But let's explain some of the back end details of being at the top of the game in rodeo, so that the up and coming athletes can understand that it's not just show up, ride a bucking horse, and I'm the best in the world. There's other things with finance and things like that behind it. Give us a little background on the business side of it, if you will.
For me, it's big. Like I am part of that 0.01% of the world that gets to do what they dreamed of doing to accomplish winning a world title and doing it. But here's the thing about it is, like you said, we're not based on salary. We're based off how well we perform off each other. So, the thing about it is when I show up, I'm there to win. Like I travel with guys that want to beat me, and I travel with guys that I want to beat. Like I show up with the best guys in the world each and every day. Like the best rig that I can put together, that of elite bareback riders that want to be the very best in the world. And that's who I travel with. Now, the business side of it is, I have a really good accountant that understands what all our winnings are and how we kind of base it out. So you don't just have this big chunk and then you have to pay it all to the government. There's the entering part, the strategic entering part, there's the mindset. I mean, it's a grind out there. I mean, you have to have a very strong mental game to get through a full summer, a full winter, a full spring, a full summer, and a fall of rodeo. Like, it's not that, I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong, but it is a job at the end of the day. This is how we make our living. This is and when you grasp that, when it's not just, let's go to the rodeo and go to the bar afterwards, like, hey, let's go to the rodeo and get ready for tomorrow. We need to start moving to get to the next one so we have ample time to sleep. There's so much in the business side of it and preparing yourself for those, the opportunity for the next day, because this is how I provide a life for my family. This is how I've, created this, this life for my son, and growing up with things that are, better than what I had it, I like to say, or try to make it that way. But there's so much that goes into it, like I said, going back to the business side, being able to enter your rodeos, make sure you're trying to be there on ways that make sense, to make sure that you're feasibly getting there. There's the airline tickets, there's the miles driven. It's making sure that everyone's, on their A game, that we're all getting enough sleep, so like when those 8 seconds arrive, we're there to compete at the highest level. There's a lot more that goes into this. We have an 8-second job that as entertainers for fans, but if you don't believe that this is a 9 to 5 to me and I put in my overtime, you're absolutely crazy.
Logan, what about you? Give us a little background on the business side.
Sorry, I was getting my daughter a snack. Man, Tim nailed it on that. Tim really, that's exactly, there's so much that goes into it that I didn't really know until about 3 years ago, my first year, that I got to go with Tim and Shane and the logistics of rodeo. But I can tell you this, I want to second one thing that Tim said. All of it is true, but what I have found for myself specifically is that it is a grind out there. Like it's not what you think it is. Like, I mean, a lot of people, it's awesome. And obviously I wouldn't step away from a secure paycheck doing something I love, coaching, if I wasn't passionate or didn't believe that I had what it takes to make the NFR, to compete with the best in the world. And man, it's a blessing to be able to do that. So don't hear me say that it's not a good thing. However, like Tim said, it's not a party. Like, I mean, you get into some of those later months in the summer, and man, it's tough. It's hard out there. It is a grind. Like, there are times where whether you're riding good or not riding good, like, man, you're ready to go home, and I haven't even gotten to the spot, like the best year that I've had where I rodeoed the most, I got hurt at the beginning of August and had to come. And so, like, I haven't experienced it to the degree that even that Tim and countless others have. And so it is a grind out there. And there's a lot of, like, it's not just entering rodeos and going and riding bucking horses. I mean, you've got to find out what rodeos you're going to, not only what rodeos you're going to, what performances you're going to have, and how are you going to get from this rodeo to the next rodeo? What are you going to, where, like, what are the logistics? How can you get to the most amount of rodeos possible with the best stock and the most money in the most legitimate way, and like Tim has gone as far as hiring a personal, like hiring a pilot for us over the course of the last few summers, so that over the 4th of July, we can get to more rodeos than a lot of guys are able to get to, because there's just so much that goes into it. And yes, there is a lot of money up for grabs, but if you're going to really get after it, go at it, it costs a lot of money too. Like, it's not just throwing your gear bag in the back of a Honda Civic and taking off. There's a lot to it once you get to that top 20% of professional athletes in the rodeo industry. For us, like, man, it costs some money too. You got to be paying attention, for sure.
Yeah, so you guys are running a budget. You're running a business, per se. I mean, you talked about hiring pilots and logistics and stuff like that. You are a businessman when it comes to riding bucking horses. And I think that's the difference that a lot of people don't see between, I would say, the top 20 in the PRCA and the guys below them. Not that the guys below them aren't businessmen, but I think that a good percentage of them aren't treating it as a business. It's something that I talk to people when I hire here on commission only, that if you treat it like a job, you'll be successful. If you treat it like I can do whatever I want, you're not going to be successful. So, Logan, let's talk about college rodeo. I think college rodeo is a great stepping stone. I think, kids coming out of high school that are rodeo strong, being able to go get that college degree and continue their rodeo career also. Let's talk about what a coach is looking for in an athlete. What's the process that you're looking at when you're looking to bring somebody onto the rodeo team?
Yeah, absolutely. There's the good thing about college rodeo is that there's a lot of great college rodeo programs out there, and with those college rodeo programs are a lot of different coaches. And so I can tell you, like, for me, but what I look for, but that might not necessarily be what every coach is out there looking for. But I, like, number one above all else, like, I'm interested in your character. Like who are you when nobody's watching? What kind of work are you willing to put in? What is your attitude like? Our rodeo team does have some extracurricular things that we do, whether it's, having barrel races to raise money or different things. Like, is it like pulling teeth to get you to show up to some of those things? Are you willing to help for the betterment of the team? I wanted student athletes that were going to make rodeo better when they left than it was when they came in, and so then we look at not, their talent and what they're capable of. I want to look down the road for them. So when I'm looking for freshmen, I'm looking at like 5 years from now, when you get ready to graduate from college, where do you want to be, and how can I help you get there? And what's the long term for them? What can I do to? So if I'm trying to set my student athletes up for success in professional rodeo, the college rodeo will take care of itself. And so that was kind of the way that I looked at it, is I want to give you guys the stuff that I've learned the hard way, or I've learned through my traveling partners, people like Tim or Jess Pope or Shane O'Connell, or the guys that I've gotten to go up and down the road with, things that I've learned from them. I want to give you those tools. Maybe you won't have to learn those things the hard way, and you'll be better off because of it. So, I want kids that, a lot of times they're like, well, do you need to work 2 events for a scholarship? Not always. It just depends on the program. It depends on the coach. It depends on the budget. There's a lot of variables there. Obviously more events are helpful for us due to the fact that with college rodeo, based off of points that you get awarded for each event that you're entered in and how you do in those events. If I've got somebody that's in 3 events, if they're good in 3 events, then they have 3 chances at points. Whereas if you've got somebody that's only in 1 event, well, then there's only 1 shot. But, there's also kids out there that'll enter 3 or 4 events, but they're probably not going to get any points in any of them. And then might have a student athlete that's really good in 1 event. Well, then maybe they're more desirable over somebody that works more. So it really just depends on their work ethic, because no coach out there is no college rodeo coach that can drag a student athlete to success. The best coaches in the world, one of them I would put is Ken Mason, who's the coach that coached where Tim O'Connell, where he went to school. Ken is a phenomenal coach, and Ken has put out more professional rodeo athletes. Tim can tell you in a second better, but I think there was 13 or 15, 18 graduates or current students from Missouri Valley College at the Great Lakes Circuit Finals this past year. Like, he puts out professional athletes, but the thing about Ken, he can help those kids get where they're going, but those kids they want it. They're working at it. They're riding the spurboard every day, maybe twice a day. They're wanting to rope calves. They're wanting to rope the dump. They're wanting to get better. And then coaches like Ken or like John Luthi at UT Martin, or these other coaches all over the country that are the elite, in my opinion, at what they do, can come in and assist them on their journey. However, if you're wanting to sit on the couch and talk about being a cowboy, it doesn't matter what program you go to. It doesn't matter what coach you have. No coach is going to be able to instill hard work, dedication in you. Like, you've got to bring that to the table, and then look at the program and what coach you think is going to be able to help you get to where you're ultimately going. Whether your sights are just set on college rodeo, whether they're set on professional rodeo, you've got to decide, what are your goals? Where do you want to go? And what coach do you think will help you get there? And then make your decision. And do not, the last thing I'll say about it is, I understand coming from a family where money was a big thing for me when I went to school. You know, I didn't have help from home, and so I was on my own. I see a lot of 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds that just will go someplace because it was the largest offer. And they want to tell their buddies that, oh, I'm going on a full ride to such and such. Or let me tell you now, money it should not be the deciding factor. Yes, money is important. Yes, your worth is super important. But money, if you make a decision based on, you know, this is the largest scholarship, you're not always going to find yourself in the best program, or in a program that feels at home and that is helpful for you. And then you're going to end up transferring a year later, 2 years later. It can mess up you graduating in 4 years. You've got to find a coach that you feel can help you accomplish your goals and where you feel at home. Sorry, I was kind of long-winded, but making sure that student athletes get where they're going is super important.
Absolutely. Tim, give us your insight on college rodeo.
I mean, college rodeo is a great foundation to, start, your rodeo career, or just a career in general. Like, the biggest thing on college rodeo is getting your education and getting your degree. I mean, that's by far the most. I right now, I have three different degrees. I have a welding certificate, I have associates of science, and I have a bachelor's of arts. Like, all these things, I thought, I don't know if I'll use them in this lifetime. One of them I use almost on a daily basis, which is my public relations degree. But having these degrees, with rodeo, like, we are getting to live the coolest life ever, right? With being able to do what we love to do. But we have a short career, we have a short window, and we're gonna have to do things life after rodeo. So making sure that you go and get your degree and finishing it out, that is uber important. Like, I don't think kids understand you can borrow that money right now, but you have got to pay it back. And you might as well have a piece of paper, if you want to call it that, that says that you earned your education at the end of that while you're paying it all back. Like, make it worth your time. And, like college rodeo, like Logan said, I mean, Logan really hit it all on the head. Like, going somewhere that's going to better you. Like, if you want to be a professional rodeo cowboy, you need to go to a school that feels at home, that's going to push you to the very best of your abilities. For me, like, I had a lot of D1 college offers to go wrestle, but I knew deep down in my heart that I wanted to be a rodeo cowboy. I had one junior college offer me a scholarship, and I took it. And it was to Iowa Central Community College, and then I transferred down to Missouri Valley and finished out my rodeo career in college. And it's actually where I bought my home at and where we live at now, because it feels at home to me. Like, this is where I wanted to raise my son and my family. And I don't know if we'll stay here for forever, but for right now, like, they made it such a home to me. And I know, like, this is where my village is at. Like, this is the people that I've surrounded myself that make me the best in the world at what I do. And it's important, like Logan said, to find a place like that that's going to push you to be the very best version of yourself every day.
Awesome. So let's talk about the physical aspects of it. And I want to delve into something that's always been a problem in rodeo that we don't see very much at the top echelon, and that would be alcohol and drug abuse. And I want to talk about it because I think that it's hard for people that don't do it to understand the aches and the pains and the things that go on, and how easy it is to drink the pain away or take a pill in order to make it go away. But let's talk about how you guys deal with those aches and pains and stuff to stay out of that realm, because it's not a party. So what are the things that you're doing in order to make sure that you get past those pains? September is a long time away. 100 plus bucking horses up to that point. And then if you're making the finals, you're talking about 10 days straight of the best bucking horses. You've got to be sore. You got to be hurting. How do you deal with that, and what is it you guys are doing to take that away?
Man, Tim will be able to give you a really in-depth, but like for me, I think a couple things. Number one, educate yourself. be as educated about your body and about fitness and about recovery as much as you possibly can. I mean, I've over the last couple of years really started to, enjoy learning some of that stuff and how I can recover faster, whether it be through active recovery workouts, whatever. Spend the time and learn, understand, like, if you're having trouble with your elbow or with your shoulder, what are some exercises that I can do to strengthen that in the off season? What are some things that I can do to make myself a more well-rounded athlete? Because at the end of the day, that's what you are. If you're competing professionally, is you're an athlete. And we've moved away from, there's a lot of like, my heroes in the bareback riding world, they were drinking, loving, fighting cowboys, and they tell you that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, they were strapping bucking horses. Somewhere along the line, somebody started jumping some rope behind the bucking chutes before they got on and started, I've heard that, like, Kelly Timberman was one of the first guys that was a real big gym nut, Clint Cannon, some of these guys that, were huge fitness nuts. And then they started winning a lot. And so I think then other people are like, wait just a minute here. Maybe if I'm not hungover, I might ride better. Maybe in order for me to keep up, I got to start. And so, over time now, dude, they're athletes. Tanner Oz, Caleb Bennett, Richie Champion. Like, I've gotten to work out with some of the Casey Field, Tilden Hooper. Those guys are they're beasts. They're athletes. They're in the gym every day preparing themselves, and they're educating themselves on their body and how to get better. Number two, I would say, is use the resources available. At a lot of the big rodeos, they have the Justin Sports Medicine team, and they're there for a reason. And it blows my mind how many people don't even bother to go see them or to use them outside of getting tape and elasticon from them. That's what they're there for, is to help you over those injuries and help teach you, this is why your elbow is sore. This is what you need to do tonight and tomorrow morning. And this is what you need to do right before you ride again tomorrow. That's going to help your elbow the best. Use the resources available to you.
I'd agree with that for sure. I think secondly too, like the drugs and alcohol, like, let's just use alcohol for an example. Like, alcohol, number one, the biggest thing it does in an athlete's perspective, it slows your reaction time. But our entire game is based on how fast you can react to what a horse is doing underneath you. So, like, if you're going to go and drink, you're just going to automatically put yourself at a disadvantage. So, like, what I've started doing over the course of, the last 5 years is, if I'm going to have a drink, and I'll admit, like, I'm a social drinker. I like to have a drink with my wife, but when it comes to my job, like, I'm not drinking on the job. Like, you can't go to work and have a drink. Like, that's not a thing. Like, that's not how the world works. So it shouldn't be the way it works in rodeo. So, like, if I have a rodeo on Thursday, the last time I will have a drink, and I mean like a sip of a drink, is on Tuesday. And if I do that, I have got to put myself through a hellacious workout on Wednesday, so that it's all sweated out and it's completely out of my system, so that when Thursday night comes up and I'm on the back of a bucking horse, there is nothing that is going to slow me down or stop me from being the very best version of myself. And two, like Logan hit on it too, like, your body has to, like, your liver has to get alcohol out of its system before it ever starts repairing the little things that, like we kind of talked about a little bit ago. Like, bareback riding is violent, and it hurts you. Like, it affects your body, like, in ways that you can't really explain. Like, your bones will change over the course of your rodeo career too. Like, they've done studies on this where, like, your riding arm, your forearm, is twice the size of your other forearm now. Like, your bones change in this. Like, so, like, if you're poisoning your body with alcohol, you can't recover it. You have to wait for all that alcohol to get out of your system before your body starts recovering your aches and pains and soreness. So, like, it's really never the answer. Is it okay and acceptable in our society? Yes, absolutely, if you're of age, and to do it responsibly. But, like, when it's time to go to work, it's not a place, like, it doesn't belong in our business anymore, to where, and if you think it does, I guarantee it, you're not going to be one of the best in the world doing it. I mean, you might one year after another, but on a continual basis, like, there's just not a place for it anymore. Like, this is an athlete's game. You know, like the athletes came in and took over at the end of the day, and, another thing is making sure your body is prepared. If your body's prepared, your mind's prepared to go out there. Like, this is a grind. This is, I keep going back. This is a violent sport. Like, your body has to be prepared for it. And I found that out the hard way in my career. I made the NFR in 2014, and I'm pretty sure there's still a dent in the Thomas and Mack from where a PTSD power play just slam dunked me, because I realized I was too small to be riding buck horses. So now, over the course of the last 5-6 years, I've hired a trainer to make sure that I'm maintaining 160 pounds. They put 15 pounds of muscle on me, so I'm able to handle these bigger, stronger horses on a daily basis. So it doesn't matter what they run in underneath me. My body is firing on all cylinders, and I've exploded my weaknesses and fixed my weaknesses. So, I think that's a huge part of it, and that's just it. Like, I don't believe in drugs. I've never tried a drug a day in my life. This isn't the game. This isn't the place for it. I mean, I know plenty of people that do, and I don't look down, and I don't look down my nose at them. But at the end of the day, I know what I'm putting in my body to make myself the best version of myself on the back of a bucking horse. And it's hard to beat me when I show up and show out.
Absolutely.
Hey, I was sorry, Everett, real quick. I would add to that. Like, I think Tim nailed it. I mean, just nailed it there. But like, I would say to know yourself, like for some people like Tim can be a social drinker, and like, that's fine. Like, it doesn't go, gosh dang, it doesn't lead to anything else. Like, man, I'm not that way. Like, I mean, I got hurt last summer, and man, I started socially drinking, and man, I got in a pretty bad place last fall with alcohol, and man, so I've stopped. It's been, I don't know, 3 or 4 months now, 3 months maybe, and I'm not gonna drink anymore. I made a deal with my wife that I'll have a beer after the 10th round of my first NFR. But until then, like, I'm just not going to, and that's a choice that I have to make. There's nothing wrong with drinking, like Tim said, but I know myself, and I know what I'm capable of and where I'm at, mentally and emotionally with that. And then it just doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't make me a better person, and it doesn't help me make wiser choices. And it's not going to ultimately get me where I'm going. I'm not heading in that direction. So it's not something that I'm going to use. But like I said, that doesn't mean that I look down my nose at other people that want to do that. It's an individual thing. Can you tolerate it? And I'd like to think that, man, I can confidently say, like, man, I can't drink occasionally, because then it'll lead to more regular than not, and next thing you know, like, man, it's just not helpful for me. And so you got to know yourself.
And I've traveled with guys that drink on a daily basis too. Like, they just know what they can do on the back of a bucking horse with it. Like, this is all a personal decision that you only get what you put into this sport, and there's sacrifices that have to be made, and there's sacrifices that don't have to be made. It's all what you want to put in at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's about knowing what the destination is. What do you want for excess in your life? Is it drinking, or is it winning world championships? And I think that when you look at sports across the board, whether it be baseball or football, the top athletes in there are generally putting in more work than the guy next to them, and they're doing the things that they need to be the top athlete, which would be not drinking, not doing drugs, those types of things. One of my favorite athletes is Roger Clemens, and when you look him up, they talk about a 40-year-old guy showing up 2 hours before everybody else, having a full workout, then doing a workout with the team, and then staying late and doing another workout in order to make sure that he was the best. So I think that's what everybody needs to look at. So let's talk about some of the fun stuff, because I think what some people don't realize is the camaraderie and stuff. So let's talk about traveling partners. Let's talk about how picking the right traveling partner is influential in your success.
Come on, let's go.
Picking the right traveling partner is influential in your success. And and going forward. So I was fortunate when I went to college. I went to college with Forrest Brownwell, and Forrest was that consummate workout guy. I can tell you a lot of great stories about 115-pound me showing up to college and him telling me how I needed to gain weight and all this stuff. But he influenced my life and work ethic and hitting the gym and stuff in order to help my rodeo career. So let's talk about the traveling partners and what that's like in the van, those types of things.
Man, I think one thing that comes to mind talking about traveling partners is if you think about the 5 people that you spend the most time around, you're the average. So the people that you spend the most time around, like that's who you're ultimately going to become like them. And so, you're practically living traveling partners. I mean, you're married to them during the summer. I mean, you're with them day in, day out. I don't know how many times I've said something smart to Tim, and he's had enough of me already, and he's taken a full drink that I bought at a gas station and tossed it out the window, or like we've been ready to wrestle or fight. I mean, you're married to him, that's the deal. So you've got to make sure that you're getting in bed with the right people here. You've got to make sure that you are traveling, going up and down the road with the guys that are going to make you better. Are they better than you? Like, a lot of people want to surround themselves with people that they are better than, or yes men, people that will say, people that will be like, oh, you're right, man. Yeah, the judge has screwed you, or this or that or whatever, because it makes you feel better about yourself. But it's not going to make you a better bareback rider or a better athlete, a better competitor. You need to be surrounded with people that care about you enough to tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. And just a quick example is that we've been at rodeos before. Reno a couple of years ago, 2-head. I got on my first one. To make a long story short, I thought that I rode exceptionally.
Now we lost him.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let you jump in there and he can rejoin. So we'll let you jump in on the traveling partners.
It's big, like what Logan said, it's in the Bible too, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another, it's impeccable that you travel with guys that want to be the best in the world. If you want to be the best in the world, you got to surround yourself with people like that. You got to surround yourself with people that want to win, that want to better themselves every day. And like he said, like people that you somewhat get along with, you don't always have to get along with them, but it's important to be able to, you're going to spend hundreds of hours with these people, on a weekly basis, you're living in a truck in a camper shell going up and down the road. So you got to be able to live with these people, but at the same time, you got to push yourself to be the very best in the world. And that's the only way to do it, is to travel with people that their goals are the same as yours, and you're fighting each other, but you're also pushing each other. You're happy for one another. But when it comes down to riding the bareback horse underneath you, that you want to win, and they instill that mindset in you, and you push them as hard as they're pushing you.
Yeah, that's great. So let's discuss. Obviously, you want to win every rodeo on every bucking horse you get on. But I would say that second best, hold on, I think Logan joined us. Let me add him in here. You back?
Hey,
Logan's back.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
You want to finish? Tim said it better than you could on traveling partners, but if you want to finish out what you were saying, you're right ahead.
If you guys handled it, I'm good.
So we were discussing traveling partners, but you want to win on every bucking horse you get on. Obviously, that's the goal. Second best when you're good with your traveling partner would be that your traveling partner wins. That's one of the things about rodeo that I think people miss is it might be somebody you really don't like, but they need help in the chutes and you're going to help. Can you guys talk about the camaraderie, the things that take place? Because I know that the behind the scenes is what people miss, the traveling, the long drives, the things like that, where guys will bell in and help you, or the community, the rodeo community will bell in and help you with a place to stay or stuff like that. Can you talk about the network and how all that affects you as you're going?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with rodeo, we're not it's not like teams that are competing against each other. I mean, we're getting on bucking horses or getting on bucking bulls or rope and calves. We're the competition really is yourself. It's man against beast. And so all the other contestants, man, they don't want to, I don't want to see anybody poorly. And so like, man, you're there to help each other. And then that of course is increased tenfold by like the people that you're spending time with, like the people like, their families, and their stories, and where they're coming from, and what they've overcome to get here. So like, man, when you want to see them do well, you want to see them win. And so the competitiveness that's in you, that you want to win, like, man, if that doesn't happen, whether you made a mistake or you didn't draw an animal that was going to allow you to compete, at the end of the day, like, man, you want to ultimately, we talk about keeping it in the rig, like, man, we want to keep it in the rig and go and collectively between the 2 or 3 of us, or 4 or whatever, and we want to show up, and when they see the truck roll in, be like, oh man, those guys are here. You want to keep it in the rig as much as possible, because like I said, where they've come from and what they've overcome to get there. So man, you're rooting for your traveling partners as much as you're rooting for yourself, I think.
Yeah, he pretty much hit that one on the head. Rodeo is unlike any other sport, and especially like bareback riding, like, it's a brotherhood that's pretty unspoken of. It's you versus a horse, not you versus, it's not me versus Logan at the end of the day. That it's perceived like that through our sport, but really it's you versus an animal. But the thing about like us is no one's afraid to help one another. No one's afraid to go pull somebody else's rigging while someone's getting the glove tied on, or like, hey man, like I'm in a bind, I need a ride to Cheyenne from Salinas, California. Hey, we're headed that way, jump in. Like, that's just how it is out here. Like, it's a brotherhood that's unspoken of.
So let's talk. Youth bareback riding, youth saddle bronc riding is really seeing a boom over the last few years, especially with the PRCA recently announcing junior rodeo. So let's go back in time. How old were you when you started getting on bucking horses?
18.
18.
I was 16, I think.
16. So let's talk about what that experience was like. 18 years old getting on bucking horses, and you're a 3-time world champion. You were 16 getting on. I never got on a bucking bull till I was 15 years old. I was allowed to get on one, then I had to go to rodeo schools, was my dad's rule. I had to go get taught how to do it. But let's talk about what it's like to be in high school or starting out at that age, and how you've gotten to where you're at.
Man, I got to where I'm at by doing the wrong stuff. I mean, ultimately, when I was 16, I wish that I would have waited. I mean, you can't go back and change it, and I'm thankful for, my time in high school rodeo. But, I mean, I didn't know any – I had very little fundamentals, but my story is very similar to a lot of kids that started, maybe their parents rodeoed. And so, my dad gave me stole equipment and taught me how to mark out a horse. And and I love my dad to death, but like the stuff he gave me was not relevant anymore. And the equipment was, 20 years outdated. And then once I started going and to high school rodeos and whatnot, I mean, you're pretty well talking to your friends. They don't know any more than that they think they do. And so they're going to tell you, well, you need to be doing this or doing that. And you just go around in circles, your tail, trying to figure out what you're doing wrong, unless you can go to a school, make sure that you're getting some proper education. And so, man, I took a lot of spills, a lot of bumps and bruises that I wouldn't have had to take if I'd have waited a little bit longer till I got to college or started at a school somewhere with educated help that could make sure I was getting on animals that were appropriate for my age and my size, and making sure that I was competing with adequate equipment, professional, like good equipment, because you will never ride better than your equipment. Like Tim said earlier, you're only as good as your equipment. And so, I mean, I rode a lot of years with faulty equipment thinking that it was good equipment. And ultimately, man, one of the worst injuries I ever had was because of my faulty equipment. I got blown out the back door and got kicked in the face. And I spent a lot of time in the hospital. And so anyway, things always have a way of working out. And I don't want to sit here and tell you that I've got so many regrets about the way I did. I mean, it brought me here. However, I've got a son. We've got another son on the way in August. And so, like, if they decide that they ever want to rodeo, like hang out. We're going to hang out for a while. Like you need to be mature. Like your body needs to have matured a little bit. If you want to ride bucking horses, your body needs to have matured, and you need to be at an age where you're able to competently learn the mark out, the fundamentals need to be pristine on the spur board before we ever. And when I teach kids they ride the spur board for me. A lot of them will quit coming and having me teach them because they're sick of riding the spur board. If you can't do it right on the spur board, you won't do it right on the bucking machine. If you can't do it right on the bucking machine, you're not going to do it right on the back of a real live bucking horse. And so it all starts with those fundamentals. And so I think, for me, ideally, a lot of guys like Tim, there's a lot of elite people in bareback riding that didn't start till they were in college. They had experience in other sports, whether it be team sports or whatever. They know how to work out, they know how to train, and now they start learning how to ride bareback horses, and they're able to progress what would seem overnight very quickly up the ranks. So, man, it's not wrong to hang out. You don't need to be you don't have to, I guess you could say, be running your hand in the rig in 15 years. But if you're going to, there's obviously the proper way to do it too. I mean, look at that Rocker Steiner. I've never.
He might be the exception to the rule.
Yeah, he is an exception to the rule. And his situation is that they have very nice bucking horses that are age appropriate for him to get on, and he's using the correct fundamentals with correct equipment surrounded by professionals. Like he's in an environment that is able to succeed, but not every family that has a 14-year-old or 15-year-old or 16-year-old that wants to ride bucking horses, number one, has the money to be able to put them on those kind of horses, has the money to be able to buy them that kind of equipment, or the access to professionals that can supervise and can make sure. He comes from a family of world champions in rodeo. They're like, he is the exception to the rule. But, I think a lot of times we're super gung-ho to get our kids rodeoing, and you see a lot of parents that are living vicariously through their kids' rodeo careers. And I don't know that I don't know. I'm not at that stage yet with my children, but I don't know that we're not doing more damage than we're doing good sometimes. And I know that's not the popular opinion, but I think if they can't employ proper technique with proper equipment on the proper age appropriate livestock, I think we're going back.
He said pretty much all of it right there. Like me waiting till I was 18, like there's so much your body does from the time you're a freshman in high school to the time you're a senior in high school. You still have baby fat on you when you're a freshman in high school. Like I was physically matured, but I wasn't where I needed to be at even as a senior in high school. And I didn't get to ride very many barebacks before I had a college coach tuning on me. And, being a little bit more physically mature, I was able to take a whip down or a buck off and get up and like, man, what did I do wrong? Not like, oh man, that hurts so bad. That's a big thing too, is making sure I, being physically mature enough to withstand, an animal slingshotting you by the end of your arm onto the ground. Like, it's a very physically demanding sport, more than what anybody could possibly imagine it being. And secondly, like, you got to have a dog in you. Like, you got to be mean. Like, you got to be willing to get into a fight, because that's what this is. This is a fight every time you wrap your hand around in that rigging. Like, you get to throw the first punch with your spurs, and after that, they're punching back. And you're a lightweight in the heavyweight division every single time. Like, so you got to have that fight and that dog in you to do this as well.
Absolutely. So let's finish up with this. I want to know from each of you, what is your favorite bucking horse and what is your least favorite bucking horse, and a little bit of why. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Favorite bucking horse. Oh, go ahead, Tim. You lead it on.
I have to. I had one, but now I'm gonna have to say Stevie Nicks of North Cotton Moxes. I just tied the world record on that horse, and I had him at the American too. And now we're gonna have a rubber match, because me and her, like, that's 2 times I've been on her. I've been 94 and 90 and a half, and I haven't felt like I've made the perfect spur ride on her yet. She's just an amazing little stick of dynamite underneath me, and I'm in love with that little bay. Like, so we're going to need to have a little rubber match and see if we can break over that 94 somewhere for quite a bit of money. And it's pretty easy for me to tell I hate War Rock of Dakotas. Like, me and that horse, and I've had him at the NFR and I've had him a couple other times. Like, if I never see that horse a day in my life, it'll be too soon. Like, it's the one horse in the PRCA or in the world that my style does not match up with that horse. He don't like me and I don't like him. So that's about it.
Logan, what do you got?
Man, I'm kind of drawing a little bit of a blank. You know, I think probably, I don't know, probably I'm tempted to say that my favorite horse would be one that I've, you know, made a good ride on or been, but man, I think like, you know, this is going to be another unpopular opinion because some guys don't like her, but the Unfortunate Karma of Calgary's is one that, man, absolutely pile drove me right after the whistle. I was able to get on it Houston last year, and man, it was a lot of fun. And that horse, you never know what that horse is going to do, but it feels, I mean, like at least when I got on it, it felt pretty good. But it's a wild sucker. You know, and I like pretty much anything to give you a shot to win. You know, as far as a least favorite horse, man, I don't know. There's a few of them out there that I've run my hand in the ring and been like, what was that? You know, I think like, man, you know, guys just don't like getting on stuff that's not going to give you a shot to win. That's going to beat you up and not give you a shot to win. You know, like, I mean, it's one thing to get on a horse, it's not a new horse. But when you got to get on something that, you know, is gonna yank on you, is gonna beat on you, and even if you ride it to the best of your ability, you're still gonna be 78. Like that, you know, those are the ones like, you know, that we were talking before we went live. Like, man, you know, you have a hard time going and getting on those when they're not going to allow you to win any money, and they're going to beat you up, you know. So, man, I don't know that I could narrow it down to one horse that I dislike the most, but there's been a few of them. That haven't been very enjoyable.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, I really want to thank you guys for doing this, taking time out of your day and helping us out. This is great information for the people out there that are stuck at home. Again, I just want to say thank you, and I really appreciate the time you guys gave us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Hey, not a problem, guys.
Thanks,
I'm
Everett.
going to go ahead and end the call, and again, thank you guys.
All right. See you, man.
Yep.
See ya.
Bye.